Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Lost in Video. You know, it's been a while since I made a video, and I really miss doing these, and I thought now would be no better time than as we start to get back into the fall season. You know, back in 1997, the late great David Lynch made a movie so confusing it made critics madder than your parents watching Euphoria. Roger Ebert basically rage quit it. It flopped at the box office, critics shrugged, and then, like a weird VHS tape left on your porch, it came back years later as a cult classic. And so today, we're taking a look at one of my all-time favorite movies from one of my all-time favorite directors, the great David Lynch's Lost Highway. Warning. From here on out, there will be major spoilers for the movie, so if you haven't seen it yet, I implore you to go watch it as soon as you can, and then come back and check out this video. Trust me, it's really worth it when you're in the mood for a surrealist, nightmarish noir mystery. Okay, so before we get into the film itself, let's check out the roster for this beautiful nightmare, starting with the filmmakers and crew. David Lynch, director. This should go without saying, but he's the surrealist director of Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, and so many other great films. So many things to say about David Lynch. He was a painter, filmmaker, hair icon, and king of surrealist cinema. Barry Gifford, co-writer. Novelist as well as Lynch's co-writer, he wrote Wild at Heart, another David Lynch classic that stars Nicolas Cage doing an Elvis impression and William Dafoe being one of the biggest creeps to ever grace a theater screen. Peter Deming, cinematography. He later shot Mulholland Drive, which is a great movie, as well as Scream 2. His specialty, making LA at night look scarier than a Windows 95 error message. Mary Sweeney, editor-producer. She's Lynch's longtime creative partner, basically the CM Punk pipe bomb of pacing in film. Patricia Norris, production and costume designer. Six-time Oscar nominee, she has a great talent for turning bland suburban rooms into existential hellholes. Angelo Badalamenti, composer. Lynch's go-to sound sorcerer. You've heard his work if you've ever cried to the Twin Peaks theme at 2 a.m. Finally, Trent Reznor, soundtrack producer. Curates a 90s dream team. David Bowie, Smashing Pumpkins, Marilyn Manson, Rammstein. Basically, the ultimate Hot Topic mixtape exists as the film's soundtrack, and I mean that in the best way. Bill Pullman. Yes, the man who gave the greatest presidential speech of all time in Independence Day, except here he plays a sweaty jazz guy. Patricia Arquette. Pulling double duty as Renee and Alice, basically playing your wife and your wife's evil doppelganger. Balthazar Getty, a mechanic who becomes the audience stand-in for what the hell is going on. Robert Loggia, a mobster so terrifying, Lynch cast him after watching him road rage in real life. Probably why his road rage scene in Lost Highway is one of my favorite parts of the movie. Robert Blake, the mystery man. Imagine if Slender Man was shorter and learned how to smile. Robert Blake seemed like a cool guy and a loving husband, so it's kinda crazy seeing him play such a horrific, devil-like character. The film also features Natasha Gregson Wagner, as well as comedy legend Richard Pryor in his final film role. Lynch and Gifford wrote the script in about a month. Inspiration came from a real event. Lynch's intercom buzzing with the phrase, "Dick Laurent is dead." That's the cinematic equivalent of opening your fridge and finding a single expired Lunchable. Something's wrong, but you can't explain why. So here's the gist of the film. Fred Madison, played by Bill Pullman, a jazz musician, gets creepy VHS tapes of his house. His wife Renee, Patricia Arquette, is murdered, Fred goes to prison, and then, plot twist, he wakes up as Pete, a completely different guy. Pete falls for Alice, Patricia Arquette again, dives into a gangster underworld, and everything spirals back to the beginning. It's a narrative loop, like Groundhog Day if Bill Murray was on Ambien and hanging out with Marilyn Manson. So what's it all about? Lost Highway is about guilt and denial. Fred can't cope with the fact that he murdered his wife, so his brain invents a new self. Lynch called it a psychogenic fugue, which kind of sounds like the name of a Star Trek episode. The themes? Fractured identity, voyeurism, paranoia, and the nightmare of being trapped in your own head. Basically, what if your Spotify playlist was just every mistake you've ever made on repeat? Shot in LA with French funding, the film's all about shadows. Cinematographer Pete Deming makes darkness feel like quicksand. Suburbs look like purgatory, highways like endless voids, and the desert like the world's scariest Windows desktop background. Its noir pushed so far, it actually collapses into horror. This is also one of those movies that's known almost just as well for its soundtrack as the film itself. Angelo Badalamentiни's score oozes dread, while Trent Reznor stacks it with all kinds of 90s gems. It's like if the Mortal Kombat soundtrack decided to smoke clove cigarettes and write poetry. But to be fair, it's aged better than half the movie's hairstyles. It's right up there with The Crow for my favorite movie soundtracks. Lost Highway dropped on February 21st, 1997, making about $3.7 million at the box office. Roughly what James Cameron spent on coffee while he was making Titanic the same year. For reference, the budget for Lost Highway was about $14 million. Not great. The critics were not impressed. Ebert called it an exercise in style, while Siskel just looked dead inside. But time was kind. By the 2000s, people realized Lost Highway was a mood piece, not a puzzle. It became the first chapter of Lynch's unofficial LA trilogy, including Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, and Inland Empire. In 2022, Criterion's 4K restoration hit, and suddenly the same movie that got roasted in the 90s was being called Lynch's darkest masterpiece. Like when everyone was counting on The Matrix Reloaded, suddenly admitted that the freeway scene is kinda cool. Not only did Lost Highway inspire endless film essays, but it also became an opera in Austria in 2003. Picture a guy in a tux singing Dick Laurent is Dead. That happened. And the soundtrack? Immortal. Nine Inch Nails finally performed The Perfect Drug live in 2018, decades after Reznor swore they never would, which honestly is the most rock star move possible in this case. So yeah, Lost Highway. A commercial flop turned into a cult icon in film. It's confusing, scary, sometimes hilarious, always unforgettable. Like most of Lynch's work, it's not about solving a puzzle, it's just about vibing with it. Like watching Twin Peaks while sleep deprived, or rewatching The Sopranos and realizing, oh wait, Tony's actually the bad guy. It's the cinematic version of staring at static and realizing the static is staring back. Well, it looks like that just about does it for this video. I hope to do more videos on David Lynch films in the future, so comment down below and let me know what your favorite David Lynch movie is. With that all being said, I want to say once again, rest in peace to the great late David Lynch. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for getting lost in video, everyone. I'll see you next time.